This week on Music Worth Buying, we're going to be checking out the original Broadway cast for Hamilton, an American musical.
And Jeff Lynne's ELO's Alone in the Universe.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Music Worth Buying. My name's TJR. I am a musician and music writer.
And my name is Robert Kinsler, and I'm a music writer and a musician.
And so now, the last time I brought a soundtrack recording for a Broadway musical to this show, it was The Book of Mormon.
Right.
Which made my top 10 list of favorite albums of that year, and I think it made it all the way up to number 1 or 2, if I recall correctly.
Wow.
On my list when we did our list.
Uh-huh.
And I have another one here, another original Broadway cast recording here, which I think also is so impressive that it's going to not only make my top 10 list, but I think it's going to make it very high on that top 10 list. And this is Hamilton. This is the original Broadway cast. Now, when this was first introduced to me, this album, this soundtrack, it was introduced to me as a hip-hop musical based on the life of Alexander Hamilton. As I've listened to it, I have come to realize it is, the album combines both hip-hop, R&B, jazz, pop, and classic Broadway all together. All of the music and lyrics and the book for the play was written by, hopefully I say this right, Lynne Miranda. And he'd already been a successful, playwright, composer. And this show was inspired by the 2004 biography, Alexander Hamilton, by historian Ron Chernow. The author was on vacation. Lynne-Manuel Miranda was on vacation, and the author decided to pick up a biography to read on the trip, the plane ride. He picked up the Hamilton biography by Ron Chernow, and immediately he began to envisioning this as a musical. This blew me away. It is a 2 CD set, and so we're going to play something right now, and I'll just play something from the opening track, which is just called Alexander Hamilton. Here we go.
Ship is in the harbor now, see if you can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies destroyed his rep, America forgot him. We fought with him. Me, I died for him. Me, I trusted him.
Me, I loved him.
And me, I'm the damn fool that shot him.
And that right there is the opening track. And of course, we can only play 30 seconds here, but you heard the entire track.
Yeah, I got to hear it. And it's interesting because, like you said, it does have the hip-hop, elements in it. And then it grows into where it sounds more like a traditional
classic
music.
Broadway.
Yeah, like a classic Broadway show. But what I found most interesting was the lyrics, how all these famous characters out of the Revolutionary War period are kind of, they're all able to kind of opine a little bit and help set the backstory a little bit about the high points of his life, right?
The opening track has all these other people in his life, kind of doing a summary of his life, and then saying what their relationship was to him in his lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's kind of giving you kind of a bit of an opening summary before we actually get on with the story here.
With the story,
And,
interesting way to do it because not everyone, myself included, is that familiar with Alexander Hamilton. I mean, obviously everybody knows the name, but who was he?
We know what we were taught in our history classes, and I know that when I went to school, I'll admit education standards were very low. It was just very basic textbook stuff.
Yeah.
You're just kind of given a few basic facts. This person did this person did that.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
This, of course, like I said, is based on the book Alexander Hamilton by historian Ron Chernow. And so it remains. It tries to remain factually correct with the events detailed in that book. And but right from the first track, the whole thing sounds just tremendously ambitious. And as I've listened to the whole thing through a couple times now, I am impressed with just how well it all succeeds in meeting that ambition. Conceptually, musically, this is an impressive and ambitious album. the show aside, the Broadway
Yeah.
show aside, as just an album itself, it's just tremendously ambitious. I wish that more pop and rock releases would be as ambitious. I really do. Now packaging, this comes in what was called the fat box, something I haven't seen in quite a while.
Yeah.
We don't really see this anymore.
Yeah, you used to see more of those. Yeah.
But this is in the fat box. I think it's necessary because you have to hold. There's not a. It's just the two CDs, but there are two booklets inside.
Two booklets. Okay.
There is one for each act because with each of these booklets, here you can go ahead. and
You have the libretto on.
You get the whole libretto.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get every single. Along with the lyrics,
Yeah.
you get you know what character is singing and
Singing
or rapping
yeah.
what parts. You get so you can follow along and know who the characters are, and so yeah, you're getting the full libretto here. And this way it makes it very easy to follow the story in case you're wondering who's this person, who's that person. And and this is one for each act, Act 1 and Act 2. So that, to me, this is just tremendously useful
very helpful.
in enhancing your appreciation of the album. And so we're going to hear another track here. This is from the second disc, and this is called The Room Where It Happened. Here we go.
No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one really knows how the game is played, the art of the trade, how the sausage gets made. We just assume that it happens, but no one else is in the room where it happens.
That's really interesting. First, I have to say I've never really heard a musical with this kind of sonic background. It is interesting to hear that style of music kind of infused with the Broadway musical. But more interesting is how they kind of are able to really play out kind of like the intricacies of politics and compromise and kind of like backdoor dealings, and able to do it here in the course of a few, and it's catchy in the course of a few minutes. Yeah. I see what you're talking about, the ambition of what they're trying to do here.
Absolutely. And this song also kind of covers as well. We hear where one of Hamilton's rivals, Aaron Burr, who
right.
introduces himself in the opening track as "I'm the damn fool who shot him,"
Right.
the man who will later shoot him. Some of his growing jealousies, as he wants more to be an insider, like Hamilton is. I want to be in the room where it happens.
Yeah.
And some of that jealousy begins to grow here. Of course, we get seeds of it earlier in the album too, in the music too. But we see some of that growing here, that character development with that. I think that because it's hip hop, it's uniquely qualified to get a lot of information through in a short amount of time, because you can just, unlike say with a regular melody, you can only rapid fire so many words. Where here you can rapid fire a lot of words.
Right.
You can get a lot of information out, but you've got to be equally clever in getting it all to rhyme and meter out and and work. You have to also be extremely clever with that too. But like I said, just tremendously ambitious. And the more I've heard this album, the more I'm liking it. There's no doubt this is going to be high up on my list of top 10.
Yeah, and it's definitely. I'm sure it's groundbreaking. I've never heard anything like that.
You don't need to see this show to appreciate this album or follow the story.
Yeah,
You'll have no problem just listening to the album.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and probably educate a little bit about history along the way.
Yes, and does educate a lot about history. Who knows? Maybe there should be more of this with other great historical figures, and we'll all learn a whole lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So speaking of history,
Okay.
I want to, I don't know if this is a perfect segue, but ELO is back. Well, not ELO as it was in the 1970s, back when it was Jeff Lynne, Roy Wood, and Bev Bevan, but it is Jeff Lynne's ELO is back with Alone in the Universe. This is his first album as ELO. He has done solo albums in I don't know how many years, but it's been significant amount of time since he went away, and I think everybody's blown away really by how strong Alone in the Universe is. Not only is it great to have ELO back, but Jeff Lynne just sounds fantastic. His songwriting, his voice, you wouldn't know. His guitar playing. He's in his 60s now, but boy, he sounds like he's still in his 20s. He just sounds fantastic. Great guitar playing, and ELO for maybe people I don't know, but they had dozens of top 40 hits. I think they sold something like during their initial run from the early 70s to the late 80s, they sold something like 50+ million albums. I mean, they were They were huge hit makers, but also very good. They kind of picked up the mantle from the Beatles as far as melodic, symphonic, and did these really tuneful, just amazing songs.
I always called Mr. Blue Sky one of the best Beatles songs not recorded by the Beatles. Not written and recorded by the Beatles. Mr. Blue Sky.
Yeah, Mr. Blue Sky. Well, just such a classic, great song and stuff. So why don't we listen to a little bit of Alone in the Universe, and let's listen a little bit of the first single called When I Was a Boy, and that's the lead-off track on Alone in the Universe.
All right.
When I was a boy, I had a dream all about the things I'd like to be. Soon as I was in my bed, music played inside my head. When I was a boy, I had a dream.
Now, of course, I've heard this, and this is one of those times where I've actually heard the album before you bring it on the show. And I'm not an ELO fan. I've been a casual fan of the hits. I remember I listened to the album Out of the Blue, which is the album that had Mr. Blue Sky, back in the day when it came out. And I liked one side of that album. That was the side that had Mr. Blue Sky. I liked that entire side. But by and large, I only liked a few scattered songs. Not really ever a big fan, to be honest. I was pleasantly surprised and impressed with how much I did like this album. And so I'm glad you're bringing it on the show here. And I love this song too. This reminds me of when I was a kid and I had my first experiences with music, when the only way you could hear it was on the radio.
Yeah, on the radio, exactly.
On the radio. You were basically at the mercies of the radio DJs as to when you got to hear something. You didn't have any instant streaming on demand. And otherwise you had to go out and buy that 45 or that album if you wanted to hear it when you wanted to hear it. And this certainly brings that back. It's a beautiful song. That piano sounds like John Lennon's piano to me, when it opens up like that. It's very Beatlesque, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
And Jeff Lynne, obviously, he was in the Traveling Wilburys with George Harrison. Obviously, his affinity for the Beatles, comes through. But I think that's maybe what happened with ELO, is maybe they were kind of overshadowed because people did see them being so closely aligned, at least with the musical
comparison,
the comparisons and stuff. But as Jeff Lynne proved even after ELO left, working with Tom Petty and Roy Orbison and stuff.
He's been a huge producer.
Huge producer, one of the most successful producers of all time. And on this album, Alone in the Universe, what's so amazing is, with the exception of a few female backing vocals and somebody adding some shaking, he did the bass, the guitar, the drums, the keyboards.
I did not know this.
Yeah, he does everything on here. I mean, it is spectacular, but it doesn't sound. It sounds like it was a band. It sounds very warm,
Yeah, it did feel,
And because it is maybe just him, it doesn't have some of the grandiose, huge symphonic soundscapes of maybe some of the classic ELO, because there isn't a live string section here and stuff. But it is a very good album, and I think what will be very exciting is to see what happens when he takes these songs out into the live. Like if he plays at the Hollywood Bowl or Madison Square Garden or something like that. What happens? I'm sure it's going to be very exciting to see him play with a large band, and also with a string section and the horns and the orchestra and stuff behind him. He did a concert in Hyde Park. I reviewed the DVD, not for our show, but for the publications. And he did play with the BBC orchestra and stuff, and before 50,000 fans. Just amazing to see him perform, again, and how great he sounds. Now on this, what I'd say is that we were speaking about the Traveling Wilburys and some of what he's done. You do hear shades of some of these people he's done in addition to ELO. At times I go, hey, that sounds like it could be a Roy Orbison song, or it sounds like something that George Harrison might have done. But that, I think, is part of the fun of this album, and kind of just the sense of joy that he brings. And it is a very nice package too. Here's I'll fold this out.
Mini vinyl gatefold.
Yeah, mini album vinyl gatefold, and you can see the inside cover here. Comes with a very nice booklet here, and very easy to read lyrics, which we always like. And a neat picture of him in the studio, where I'm sure he worked on. And like I said, it's just him in there, but it was pretty much just him on the album. But just a very nice package, and I don't have that one here.
I like
but
the interior. The interior sleeve.
Very cool. And apparently the Amazon exclusive has 2 additional bonus tracks. I have the conventional one, and it has 10 songs on it, but I think either way you can't go wrong. It's just a great album. And this next song it might be my favorite on the album. You know, I've been listening to it for a week or so now, and this is called "The Sun Will Shine on You." And let's listen to a little bit of that song.
Sure.
Just remember that it's alright. It's alright to be true. And the sun will shine on you.
I enjoy that track, and of course, as I've said already, I would love to hear actually that track, an alternate version with just piano. I think it'd be great to hear with just piano. Enjoying this version too. Of course, like I said, heard this album and was very impressed by it. Didn't really find any bad tracks on it. And this album, the fact that it impressed me as much as it did, has made me want to go back and reconsider ELO now, and go back and listen to the older albums and listen to them again. Listen to Out of the Blue again now that I'm older, and listen to a lot of the earlier albums that I've never heard, and try to see how it sits with me now. And sometimes that's all it takes is one album.
It is
to make you say, hey, maybe I missed something the first time around. Maybe I need to go back and listen.
Yeah.
And this album certainly does that for me.
You know, and in the interest of full disclosure here, like you, I'm not an expert on all their albums, but I obviously every time you turn on the radio, you know, classic rock radio for a time, you hear the hits, and they're just kind of always there. But it was seeing that DVD performance where they played with the orchestra in the park, and then for 2 hours you see Jeff Lynne with an orchestra, and you just go, wow, what a singer, what a songwriter, what a architect of doing something kind of special. And it was out of step with kind of what other people like Boston were doing, or Led Zeppelin, or Bad Company. You know, they kind of had success doing their own thing. You know, and I think time has caught up where people realize, hey, this is really good, you know, really good stuff. And I think Jeff Lynne is definitely recapturing that here with Alone in the Universe.
And, you know, I think, you know, you and I both realize, you know, it says Jeff Lynne's ELO. The reason it says, this is basically a Jeff Lynne solo album.
It is.
It says Jeff Lynne's ELO for the same reason that Townsend and Daltrey tour as The Who.
Right.
You know, because if they didn't tour as The Who, not enough people would care.
Right.
It's not about money, but it's just not enough people would care.
Yeah. So
if
it gets people to be
by calling
be
it Jeff Lynne's ELO, people are going to say, "Oh, ELO."
Yeah.
You know, I'm more interested in checking this out than if it was just Jeff Lynne.
Yeah.
Sadly, that doesn't make the music any less. But sadly, it's the name value.
Yeah.
Because it has ELO, people are going to, oh, okay, yeah, I'm more interested now than if it just said Jeff Lynne.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. But if it gets them to listen to it, so much better, because it is really good.
And hopefully when he tours, you know, hopefully a lot of people go out and see it, and then more people discover a very good album.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. I was thinking when I reviewed this initially, and I said, you know, 2015 has been quite a year for comebacks. You had Blur come back after a number of years. Duran Duran came back with a very good album after, and I don't know how many years since Squeeze had last done an album. They did, I think it's called Cradle to the Grave. They've come back right around the same time as this album with a very strong album, and it's kind of neat to see some of these classic rockers coming back and creating some of their best albums.
Yeah,
you know, and it's really so go out and check some of this stuff out, because there's some exciting new music from these veterans that I've been very impressed with in 2015.
Absolutely.
You know, but this is one of the top albums, definitely.
And don't forget that recent release by the Zombies too.
Oh yeah,
which
exactly.
Which impressed the heck out of me too as well.
Still got that hunger. Yeah.
Okay. So we want to thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already. We thank everybody that has shared the show on social media. Let us know what you think of these albums if you've heard them yourselves. Please give us your opinion. And until next time, my name's TJR. Check out my music at tjrmusic.com. Drop me an email. I'll send you a link for some free MP3s. Also, my personal YouTube channel is youtube.com/TJRTheOriginal, and join me there where I do live music performances and also talk about other things as well. And where can we find out more about you?
Well, you can catch my work at ocregister.com. You can find my work at musicnewsnashville.com and at desertstarweekly.com, and of course right here at musicworthbuying.com.
Right on. And so we'll see you next time.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.